it's always fun to talk about this topic because it brings back some very fond memories, some very engaging times when getting an opportunity to transition into the superintendency in a new community, and I'm here in Ithaca, New York. We use that superintendency transition period as an opportunity to re-engage the board and community around a common vision mental model, which is a key component of governance. That strategic planning, and we didn't want to refer to it as a strategic planning process, we called a listening tour, and we did that. We listened to folks, and we got a sense of what needs to take place in our school district, and that inspired our board to really look at governance in a different way. As superintendent, I was the person facilitating those conversations and capturing the data, and it resulted in a new vision and mission for our school district, along with some key goals, priorities, and some metrics. And the board made that vision and that mission, along with the priorities, part of their policies. And then the board also set metrics that were pretty bold and aggressive metrics that were going to give us a sense of how well we were doing our mission and on our trek to achieve the vision. And then they said to the community it was going to be up to staff to put in place some strategies to meet those pretty aggressive metrics. In addition to the listening tour / strategic planning process, reading, I gave my board members books upon my transition into the district, books that really spoke to a vision for teaching and learning, but also some books that spoke to a new way to govern in this contemporary environment that we're dealing with. And the Doug Eady books were ones that I've admired for quite a while, and was one that we gave to our board and referred to often. So books, reading common reads and discussions about the topics that were raised in those texts, along with that strategic planning process, were key elements to our ability, my ability, to get the board inspired and engaged around this governance. And that's what I've done, Jenny. What have you done? I would love to learn more about how to do this better.
Well, thank you, Luvelle. You're doing some excellent work in your district, and we certainly appreciate that from AASA. You certainly model what needs to be done. One of the things I'm very proud of at AASA is our positive relationship with NSBA. I want to put a plug in for that because I think what we try to do and model at the national level is very important so that people see us working very well with the National School Board Association. And as a superintendent, and I think you mentioned, Luvelle, that how important it is those first 90 to 100 days. I think you've got a small window of opportunity to start moving your district forward and building that solid foundation and that foundational relationship with school board members and that trust that's so important. And like you, we created what we called a high-performance model, and it was a strategic plan. And I guess the strategic plan is not what you call it or what you do with it. It's not as important as the end result in moving your district forward and creating a solid vision, mission, goals, and priorities of your district. And what I found really important as I came into to our district, and I did this in two different districts that I held superintendent positions, was create a community-based strategic plan that enabled all stakeholders, including the boards, to be trained and have input to the direction of our district. And as an example, throughout the training process, we had over 7,000 pieces of information coming in, excuse me, from all different aspects of our district, both inside and outside of the district. And what that enabled the board to do is be a part of a process that gave them a buy-in to the direction and also see their constituents who they are representing and be a part of that. So they were actually advocating for the direction of the district from their input and actually seeing the input from other people in the district. And as a result, our common language changed. The direction of our board meetings changed because everything that we did that got on the agenda was tied to a priority area. So we didn't have these random acts of things going on at the board that kind of changed directions for us, but they were all tied to the priorities. And as a result of that, the trust factor between the superintendent, the board, and even our community raised to a much higher standard. Why don't you, Luvelle, talk a little bit about once you get that in place and that trust built, what do you do now to keep that?
Yes, and to keep that trust, it's an ongoing process, and it involves the development of us all as a community, particularly the board and superintendent and staff, as instructional leaders. You spoke to board agenda items. I have an opportunity to sit down with my board officers and quite frankly all of my board members often, and we all provide input into the agendas. We've shifted our agendas in a way. We have 2 meetings per month. One of those meetings is more of a traditional business meeting with a lot of voting and approving of things. That second meeting has turned into a work session format. During those work sessions, we really take on key instructional initiatives that are taking place in the district. Everything from some things we're doing with technology, assessment, curriculum, or professional development. And during those work sessions, we bring educators throughout the district, teachers, assistants, other folks, administrators, to the table with the board, and it's a bit of a round table discussion about the particular teaching initiative. And that also informs budget, resource allocation, future approvals of items on the board agenda, but that work session format has been a very transparent way to build not only trust, but some instructional leadership amongst our board members. And so that's worked very well for us, but I'd love to hear from you, Denny, about some things that can get in the way or some things that you've done to remove barriers to trust or some things that can get in the way of all this.
Yeah, Luvelle, I think that's a real key issue. One of the things, you can have a great strategic plan, everything seems to be going in a very positive way, and then all of a sudden you get a board election, and 1 or 2 board members potentially change, or a board member suddenly resigns, those type of things. And what sometimes we fail to do as leaders is go back and either retrain or go back and rebuild relationships with the entire board, because the board member that leaves, oftentimes the trust goes back to a lower level because the dynamics of the board changes. So you've got to be very, very cautious and not get lazy in terms of that retraining and spending a considerable amount of time that you did early with the board in general when you had those changes. We often did a retreat after we did the strategic plan, and I have to tell you, as a superintendent, I've had good retreats and I've had not so good retreats. And I think a lot of it focuses on how you develop a retreat. What we try to do is, again, tie it to the hard work that we did in our strategic planning process with their high performance model and our district priorities, and make that the key focus, but also allow them to come together, work together, and and rebuild that relationship among the board and myself as a superintendent. Every one of those board members need to feel they're making a difference, and that's a great opportunity in a relaxed environment to get that done. So we often try to set an inspiring theme for the board meeting, and you know how difficult it is, Luvelle, to get even just 5 board members sometimes committed to one date. That seems to be sometimes the most difficult. But we would involve the board members, especially the board chair, in the planning process and design it so that there was interest and that we were going to be there, we're going to be committed. We would certainly send out an agenda prior to that meeting. And I found one time I did not use an outside facilitator, and it did not work as well because what happened was I think we had some strong personalities, and individuals tended to dominate the discussion. With the next time I had a retreat, we used a facilitator. The facilitator really did a great job of keeping it moving, keeping us moving toward a broader picture of maybe enhancing the goals that we had already set, evaluating them, and so forth. So I think, sometimes an outside facilitator can be very good. But I think a retreat is very healthy, especially when you start with a goal in sight, and sometimes even taking it off school property can be very valuable, so that they're in a relaxed setting. But again, it's sometimes it's a little more difficult to schedule than it is to actually do the retreat, in my experience.
Jenny, always learn so much from you. Thank you. I just learned how important that retreat could be for our district. We haven't done as much of that, and definitely need to consider the outside facilitation, which is good. One piece I would add to continue to develop trust and keep board members in the know as far as what we do. I share my calendar with board members, and as you know, superintendents, we're leading while walking around every day. So we're probably at an event every night, some place where we're sharing the strategic plan, vision, metrics for the school district. And very often, almost at every opportunity I have to share this in that way publicly, a board member or two, and sometimes many of our board members are there. That gives the perception, and it helps us build a better team. It gives a sense to the community that we're a team, and it also, as we field the questions, we learn from those questions. It gives us some, together the board and the superintendent, a deeper understanding about the issues and where our community wishes to go.
Yeah, great points. To your point on the metrics, you bring up an outstanding point. And as long as you keep the progress of your goals and in front of the board and have them actively talking, I think it goes a long way with building that trust. One of the things that we're very successful in is that we developed the priorities for the district. We selected priority leaders, and quarterly, and I told you that before we had any meetings on the agenda, it was all tied to priorities. So it was a very focused meeting. Also reduced the amount of time we were spending in board meetings because we got right down to business. But the metrics is very important. We had those priority leaders report out quarterly, and these priority leaders came from the community, stakeholders from the business people, even a board member, one of the board members led a priority group. And these people met with committees periodically throughout the quarter, and then quarterly would make a report to the board about the progress of that individual priority, whether it was high student achievement or healthy, safe environments. And they would talk about the metrics, the goals within the priorities, and what we have done to accomplish them, and always tied to some type of metrics. And that was, again, a way to have the board engaged, see the progress of the district, and again, it built confidence. So going back to that retreat was a great way for them to make any adjustments and ask questions about the priority presentations that had been going on over the course of the year.